is Toby Farland, the director of the library, and we have a here with you. Welcome. Today we have my friend Beth over here. This is Wild Mountain Birds, and Annie, I'm sorry, Annie Martinez wanted to stand. She's brought her collection today, and Emma the Birds, and Emma who's going to be a veterinarian to the years. Well, we're going to see a veterinarian because that's my with an emphasis on exotics, which is anything that's not a dog or a cat. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to give them the floor. They're going to tell you all about the animals. So this is for about 45 minutes or yeah. So this, it's a nice enough group that if you have questions while Emma and I are yabbering away or walking around, just say, ask a question or something, or you can take photographs too if you want to. It's completely fine. These guys, I don't know if you're flashing here or not, but they don't really care about flash. So I know it's kind of an idea that you can't just flash with animals. It depends on the bird. These birds are not mystified by flashes. But the other thing about it is things like if there was a toddler running around, that kind of worried them, or if someone came in here with a balloon, they're like scared of weird things like balloons, or when we're outside, like umbrellas going by, or baby carriages. And of course, dogs. They're actually scared of all of these things. So, but flash cameras or your cell phone, absolutely fine. So just what basic things. I assume people know this already, but almost all wild birds are federally protected as well as state protected. But federally across the country, they're all protected. The only ones that aren't are invasive species like starlings, house sparrows, pigeons, and actually even swans are not protected otherwise. Yeah, and then in hunting season, turkeys are protected and geese and such, except during hunting season. So if you're a hunter, you already know that. The reason I'm saying that is because you can't touch my birds. That's part of the whole thing. I know as much as you might want to, you just have to sit on. It's really the adults. Guys, you gotta watch the adults because I have trouble with them sometimes. They reach out and try to touch my birds. And it's adults in mind. And also, these birds are not potty trained, so don't flip out if someone try to eat out after ourselves. Right? We've tried. It doesn't work. You already pretty much saw there's a whole collection of what we call artifacts or wings for birds that didn't survive. And you can absolutely touch those and pick them up and examine them. And there's a few handy flyers over there for more interest if you want more information about wildlife rehabbers or Where to Bird. The pamphlet I have over there is Where to Bird in Ulster County, which is where I'm from. So, but if you live around here, you know that at Tickley Bay, any place along the Hudson River where there's public access is awesome for birds, especially migratory birds, songbirds, waterbirds. Even in the winter, if you have any old pair of binoculars. By the way, the cool thing to say is bins. Binoculars, to say bins because then they'll break. That's all. Take your bins and you can see like eagles on ice floats in the Hudson River. I've seen them. And if you are, tough enough to be out there, and if we have a real winter again, and there's ice, I counted one time 18 mostly juvenile eagles going down the river. What was I going to say? So, Emma and I are both wildlife rehabbers. Sadly, I have 6 permits to work with wild birds as an educator and as a rehabber. Maine has his own permit because his species, he's a paragraph, and that species is still endangered in New York State. So he has his own endangered species permit. It's my permit. That's what he has. And Emma is brand new. Well, not so many, but she's officially a wildlife rehabber. Like I said, I'm telling you when she's traveling the world and having a lot of fun too. But we really need more veterinarians that know something about wildlife, or just really to take a look at that. Even, a squirrel that needs to be euthanized, or a raptor that needs a leg pinned or a wing pinned. These are things that are incredibly expensive for us, or impossible to find a veterinarian that will even do anything like that. I'm lucky that I'm connected to Newburgh Veterinary Hospital in Orange County, and they have it's actually just been sold to a corporation, which is interesting. That the owners are officially retired, but they still are there hovering around and helping the newbies and new vets. They sold it to a corporation 2 years ago. In that contract, they agreed on that the corporation will continue donating their services to wildlife rehabbers in perpetuity, which I've never heard of in any veterinary situation. So that's pretty awesome. And fans like this, I get anything that's just different. I'm not necessarily scared of it, but it's something they might be aware of and watching. All right, good, Meg. So I'm gonna talk about Meg for just a few minutes, and then we have a bunch of other birds I want to show you. Some of them we can perch on the table, and you can come up closer, wait around, when you're done, and take better photographs if you want to, or if you want a selfie with Meg or something, that's completely fun too. So he's a peregrine falcon. He's a male. He's he's like 7.5 years old now. New York State DEC, roughly 25 years ago, put platforms, boards basically, under every bridge from the city up to Albany over the Hudson River. So the idea was to encourage any pair of peregrine falcons to like that situation for nesting. They like high places. They like to first have their nest high for protection, but also because they hunt birds. And so for these guys, their habit is to be above the water, or on a high-rise tower, like they're in the city, or on the Shawangunk Cliffs, where they can just sit there in their glory and watch what is going to be for lunch, or dinner, whatever, a duck, whatever it is, flying by. Then they drop down, tuck their wings, and go very fast. Like the fastest thing on the planet, fastest animal on the planet that we know of so far. And that's they're working on it, but they're faster than cheetahs, whales. They're just faster than any other animal. How fast? How fast? Anybody know? So, yeah, they don't always go that fast, but they go over 100 miles an hour, 140 miles or higher when they have they're like torpedoes going after their prey. When they hit their target, which is a duck, they aim with their feet, so they hit with their 2 feet. They hit their neck usually. Generally, that will kill a bird right away. But if not, they have this heavy beak that's like a wire cutter. So, quite what I'm fires, but a lot of all these falcons have really, everything on them is a tool for survival. Their eyesight, their silhouette, the strength of their grip, their talons, their beaks. So he can grab something that's still alive, bring it to his favorite perch, and then clip the neck and put it out of its misery. In the wild, these guys mainly hunt birds. I've almost never seen a peregrine on the ground unless it was injured, or it's a juvenile that was trying to figure out what it was supposed to do next. May here, his name is May, I've tried feeding him feeder mice, which is what most of my birds get fed. Feeder mice cost about 65 cents a piece right now, which is, even at that price, I go for like 50 a day at least. It depends on how many birds I have. He will not eat mice. He is too high in my to eat mice. He requires quails. He gets paid to feed a quail in the morning, and they're small, maybe 6-week-old quail. I get them frozen. He gets one in the morning and one in the evening, depending. Here we go. There we go. And it's interesting to watch these guys because some videos of peregrines in the wild show them just swallowing everything, all the feathers, the head, the legs, everything. Ming here, being the king that he is, he pulls the feathers off on the ground. He pulls the legs off. He discards the head, and then he will eat some of the insides. He's a high maintenance version. The reason I have Ming at all is because he was learning, when he was learning to fly 8 years ago, he was born under the Mid-Hudson Bridge. He was learning to fly, he went up where the traffic is and hit a box truck. Or the box, you know how heavy traffic is on all these bridges. I'm sure whoever it was had no way of stopping. There's just no way. He hit one of those box trucks. It was very severely damaged. The Bridge Authority crew on it, they're so awesome. I'm so impressed with the staff. I'm so impressed with the staff that work at all the Bridge Authority posts up and down the river. They're such good people. Of course, there's cameras everywhere watching for problems, ice, weather conditions, or sad people. They're also watching for peregrines. They actually are. They get all excited about their peregrines when they come back to their bridge. This year, there were almost every year there's a pair under the Mid-Hudson Bridge. They could be his parents because they can live for like 20 years. In a perfect world, they can live for those years. But I don't know. So he was quite damaged. I had him for going over 2 months with the help of my veterinarian. Slowly patching him back together. The biggest injury he had was head trauma. Kind of makes sense. Head trauma. A lot of birds, when they hit a vehicle, it's usually with their head, and so there's the standard things we look for. It's pretty obvious is headache. They're like lethargic. You can't hold their head up. Both eyes with one eye damaged. In his case, it caused internal bleeding too. In his brain and elsewhere, he had cluster seizures because every time blood would move, this is why that's every time blood would move, he would go into a cluster seizure. So I have whatever the medication was, I can't remember, to give him a real quick shot at home to just sedate him so that the seizures stop. And every morning I would walk around. I still do this because I still have a whole load, a couple dozen birds at home that are in rehab. I walk around with my cup of coffee and look in the crates and in the cages to see who's alive and who's not, and just do a quick assessment of how everybody's doing. And I really expected him to not survive, but he did. In the end, I was going to bring him back to his family. He had 2 siblings and his parents, and they were still under the Mid-Hudson Bridge. The best thing is to get these guys back to their family if you can, because that's where the bulk of their knowledge for how to survive in the wild, how to hunt, what to avoid, what's dangerous. They learn that from their parents. They watch their parents, they follow their parents. And unfortunately, when I was ready to release him, I was not going to do this, but you see, I'm like waving over here. There's really not much. He's really interested in these fans here. But if I go over here, he's not even like ducking that much. But his right eye is blind. He's used to me doing this little trick, so he's like ignoring me. I would just let it down. You can't release a one-eyed pelican. Owls are pretty much the only reactor that you might be able to release with one eye if everything else is like absolutely 100%. And even then, you have to be careful. You have to kind of test drive them to see if they can still target the birds and still catch a live mouse and something. So Ming was, that was his bad luck, and my good luck is that I was able to keep him as an education. But he, so I'm going to, if you guys have any questions about him, more birds, less talking. In one city, I don't think so. But they would smell that. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, if I actually released him, this guy, that would be cruel. For one thing, it'd be very cruel because he literally could couldn't see what might be coming at him from his blind side. And the peregrine would attack, not the peregrine, if there was an opportunity, and it wasn't their main or their So he might jump off his perch, but he can't go anywhere. He's not gonna. He can fly just fine. It's not. I don't free fly them over your heads. You can say that too. But if he jumps off, I'll put him back up, or he'll get himself back up. Get through this. Here. So Anna is. This is the screech owl. This is not a baby. This is as big as they get. You guys hear okay? A little louder. This is the eastern screech owl. This is not a baby. This is as big as they get. This is also an eastern screech owl. They come in different colors. There's 5 color versions in North America of screech owl. And in the Northeast here we get kind of 50 the bluest color and the gray, I call gray. They can interbreed. Sometimes I get really, this year I didn't get any baby screeches, which is good. And say I think somebody's incredibly cute. They're about the size of like a orange almost. And then they're white fuzzy, and then when their feathers start coming in, then it's just fun to kind of guess. The rufous is going to be, a graze, and sometimes there's mixtures. It's interesting.
So cute.
So both of these birds, they're both old birds. They generally only live 10 or 12 years, and in the wild, most birds don't live that long at all. There's a high turnover of every species, robins, raptors, balls. If they live a couple years, a few years out in the wild, that's a successful bird, whatever it is. In captivity, there's a better chance that these birds could live as long as they're genetically wired to live. 10 or 12 years is could be expected for these guys, and they're both older birds. So I'm a little concerned that they're just old, and I don't know exactly how old because I got them as adults. This one, this is Woody. He had one eye removed by my veterinarian a number of years ago. That eye was one of the most damaged by hitting a car. And it just never, usually those eyes heal completely or they settle down, but it just hurt them. That eye just kept getting aggravated and infected over and over and over again. So finally my vet said, what is that term? Thank you, I can actually say it in my head. But that's it. That happens for pretty much any animal that has a really non-functional or problematic eye. Dogs, cats, etc. So with these guys, the vet actually sewed the eyelids shut too to help limit or prevent bacteria or any illnesses getting into that eye. At the moment, like this summer, little Woody, he's just a little older. Like I've had him checked again by my vet every once in a while. I don't want any of these birds to be in pain and not do something about it. I don't, but my vet seems to think he's okay. He's just old. He's bumping into stuff a little more than he used to. They can both fly just fine. So they have their own building. It's about 12 by 12 by 12, something like that, which is pretty good size for these guys. There's high shelves. They like nooks and crannies where they can hide. And like I said, high grade. One whole wall is small gauge wire mesh, so they have like a window to the outside. They can feel the breeze. They can hear everything else going on in the woods and hear me walking around or mowing the lawn or whatever. And they're out there year round. Actually, all my birds are outside in their buildings all year round, except for one. Wait a minute. Screech owls are actually pretty common, but they're incredibly difficult to see. They're so obviously and really blends in with trees and branches, so they're really camouflaged unless they're moving. Or you have like you're a really excellent photographer and you go to the same place over and over again. It's really difficult to see these guys. I can tell you that old historic graveyards with monster-sized trees are really good habitat for screech owls. So you might see a screech owl in an old forest or an old cemetery. Another thing you can do, if you haven't done this yet, is we pretty much all have smartphones now, I guess, right? Except for, I don't know, the littlest, I don't know. But so there's two apps that are really useful. One is called Merlin. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful app. It's got its glitches. It's not 100% perfect, but you can sit on your porch in the morning or in the evening when a lot of birds are full and turn on Merlin, and it'll start identifying the birds that are singing. Let's go vocalize and you can hear, which is fun. It's just starting to learn to do birding and identify birds. It's fun to see if what you're thinking it is matches up with Merlin. However, I can tell you that when Merlin first came out a few years ago, because I had this, a bunch of captive birds, right? I went to Meng's building, to his museum. I went to Meng's building, and I turned on Merlin for the very first time, and he's vocalized, he's like doing his thing, and I think what Merlin told me was that it was a Canada goose. It's better now, but it's not perfect. The other thing is, from Cornell is an app called eBird. It's also free. It's a way that you can keep your list. If you want to do this, you can keep a list, a daily list, a life list of birds that you are seeing or hearing or both. No matter where you are in the world, it's just a kind of fun thing to do. You can. Some people really make it into a mission to. I met a gentleman on one of the birding trips I went on. I was just one of the customers. I was not leading it, but it was in northern Minnesota. This wonderful gentleman was on this trip with us, and his whole goal at that point in his life was to hear and see every warbler in the world. And I can't remember, I think it was a Connecticut warbler at that time. We heard and we saw, and that was his last bird, the last warbler. And there's thousands of them. It's a big thing. Okay, so let's take on here. Do you want I do have about 5 more words to show you guys. I know are you guys okay? Yeah? I know it's like a lot of, sometimes I talk too much, I know that. Yeah, so that's why I need Emma to do the secret. So the goal of being a greenhouser or wildlife greenhouser is, there's a few goals, but the main goal is to get an animal back out in the wild. That's the main goal. If at all possible, but only if they can survive. And that's the same with squirrels or chipmunks or birds, but it would be, it wouldn't be right to put Mango, like I said, because he would survive very long and he might be the target of someone else's meal. The other big reason to do wildlife rehab is because you just want to be able to help. You don't want to see an animal suffering or hungry or orphaned. So if you can do something about it and it's within your, it can fit in your life. It's hard to do if you have. I'm not saying don't do this, but it's hard to become a rehabber if you have little kids, or let's say you have a job. That's good. It also is a little bit difficult if you don't own the property that you're on. My husband and I own our property for 36 years now, and he can't stress. I have 10 buildings at home, and I have like buildings that are specifically made for raptors and for bigger birds, crows and ravens and such. and woodpeckers to give them flight practice and to, get them away from human noises and human sounds as much as possible. I also have taken a garage, that's my triage area, it's got AC, yeah, and there's no cars there at all. And in summer, the front porch is also mine. And that's for, I have rows of tables with actually big fabric dog crates, like the kind you would use for traveling if you're taking your dog on a trip, I guess. But they're perfect for songbirds. Yeah, if you can, they're just big enough to like give them a playground, get them places to move, and then you can release the birds and hose the thing off. It's like pretty good. So most years I've taken 300 or more birds. I'm close to that right now, which is, it's been actually a pretty brutal year because of the heat and the humidity, and it's just, for rehabbers all over, it's just been brutal. The phone calls don't stop. There's not many bird rehabbers because there's extra hurdles to go through to work with birds. So I asked Alexa, I asked Alexa once, who's the expert, of course, and everything. I asked Alexa once, like, how many wild bird rehabbers are licensed in the United States? And she said 1,400. Now, I have no idea how I don't know. And then I asked about small mammal rehabbers, and she said something like 6,000. And that's probably a low number. There's no money in this, you don't get paid, there's no trickle down from tax money or anything like that. So it's hard to do if you're not like pretty settled. So this here is, do it, go ahead and do it, it's fun, it is fun. If you like chipmunks, whatever it is that you fancy, we need more rehabbers, period. And vets that will work with them, cheering. So this is a Mississippi kite. She is Mississippi kite. She's like 2.5 years old. She should have a beautiful long white tail. However, what she's got is a very short, tiny white tail. She fell or was somehow injured when she was a nestling. I don't want to tip her too much, but this wing is not fully open, so she can't fly. She's from North Carolina, but the reason I accepted this bird from a North Carolina rehabber is because this is a warm weather even South American species that has started to come up the East Coast little by little for the last 10 years. So I haven't read of any proof of them nesting up here yet, but I know that there's a rehabber in Pennsylvania who's had a couple kites this summer, and I've seen postings of kites seen up all the way to Maine. This is because of climate change, climate warming. There's just no doubt about it. They do not come up here because they want to visit. They come up here because they're following food. That's the main reason. They mainly hunt insects on the fly, literally, just like bats do. They're daytime hunters. Well, yeah, they don't hunt at night. They can snatch mice or froggies or whatever off of a branch or off the ground. In her case, I can't duplicate insects flying all over the place in her building. That doesn't really work. So she has gotten accustomed to live mealworms, live waxworms, and she'll eat like 1 mouse a day, pretty much. I actually watch her closely because I want to make sure she's getting enough calories. But she does. Her building, I call it a mew, that's the MEW is what we put raptors in mainly. Her building is pretty small, and it's got ramps from floor to ceiling and to different perches, pretty wide ramps with astroturf on. So she can hopscotch all over the place and maybe kind of power fly about a foot this way or that way. So she's outside all day long. At night I take her in because I want to, again, monitor and make sure she's getting enough calories so that's when she gets her mouse, right? Okay, so now I'm gonna perch her. She has this habit recently of flapping her wings or flying. She's been like, she'll probably start doing, she just like, when we're outside especially, and she can see the sky, she can feel the breeze. When she has done this for 3 or 4 hours in a stretch, just standing there on her perch. And I don't think it's a sad thing. I think she's enjoying the sky and the breeze. She pretty much knows, as much as a bird can know, that she can't fly. I was gonna say.
Catch her own mice?
No, the feeder mice. Yeah. Although, you know, if something wanders into one of the outbuildings, stuff happens that I can't control. If I do go out, all the buildings have either patio bricks that I put in, because then I can power wash those, or actually nothing but gravel. So things can get in and out. If I go in and there's a mouse or a toad or a snake or something, I will save them, especially frogs. Which are great. Yeah, so I'll get them out before the raptors find them. You want a cherokee? Grace is fine. Grace is fine. So we have, yeah. Yeah, just, we'll see if she'll stand on your butt for a minute, but maybe I'll take Keith out and see what I'm. So I have an owl, another owl to show you guys at the end. And then, this is a kestrel. This is a broadwing hawk. That's another bird that's supposed to go to South America every fall. One of the first species to actually leave.
What did you say it was?
Broad-winged hawk, broad-winged hawk. She's funny. She's a female. I don't know why I called her Grace. I got her like 8 or 9 years ago. She's not graceful because she only has 1.5 wings. But I don't know why I like that name Grace. I was hoping. She has her own building. She gets around like better than this one. She's got more strength, more power, and more wing. But in the winter, I have to make sure that birds like this have targeted heat lamps, or there are these things that are for chicken owners, mainly called sweeter heaters. You know, they're like these. They look like they're like long rectangular things that have no hot spots on them, but you can. It's low wattage, and you can hang them above your chickens, or in this case, I hang them above these birds' favorite perches, and they're pretty cost effective as far as I can tell. So she can pretty much stay out all winter. I also put wind blocks, weather blocks. I spend a lot of time in October on ladders, like hanging plastic sheets or high quality, like vinyl, clear vinyl sheets over all the openings in the buildings. Because it is really better if they're outside and there's no room inside. And so they do have heat sources. If there's really some monster winter storm or long cold spell, some of these birds I will move into my triage area, which is warmer and has better heat. Or even in really crazy times when we used to winter, many is one that I also put down in our basement where the temperature's always 60 degrees. So it's a temporary fix for bad weather. So she was genetic. I had her DNA tested because one of the questions I get a lot from people is what's their name, like not breed or species, what's their name, and what sex is that? And it's interesting to me that it's just interesting what people want to know. I don't name all the birds that I get as rehab parents because that's ridiculous. I said 300 to 400 most years. And people will come to me and say, we named it Charlie or something. Okay, like 250. I have to keep records very carefully because this stuff all gets, the logs get sent to the DTC and U.S. Fish and Wildlife at the end of the year. They don't want to know that that's Charlie. They want to know the species, the date, the why. There's a whole list of about 50 codes for why you have a wild animal. So there's, code C1 is cat. It's a big one, I use that a lot. Each one is that's another pleasure to try to walk very still. But yeah, they come out really So Robin hawks are absolutely migratory hawks. They can go usually all the way down to Gaza. I've seen them in Central America. They stay our winter down there. They come back up here pretty late in the spring. They do go all the way up into Canada. This is mostly like Boston, Mississippi over here, and then north. They nest in Canada, right around here, and places in and then they get back. America. It's a huge long trip, so their population is tiny but not endangered. Any bird that migrates is, a lot of risk when you travel that far. If you're a bird, whatever bird it is, it's just very, very risky. Partly because at the other end, they're not in any, none of us are in control of what the environment is, where they're going. So if you imagine how you hear about Amazon in the news and trees being cut and burned and mines being opened up and habitat being destroyed, and massive amounts of habitat being destroyed, and that's where these birds go, especially some of the prettiest birds that we have right now, the tanagers and the indigo bunting, all these beautiful birds. May go back where they've gone for many generations to find that it's parking lot, but that can be said for this country too. So it's just stressful. She was on a road, I think about 9 years ago. That end of that wing was actually hanging off. The rehabber didn't send me. I get asked now and again from other rehabbers if I have permits to possess. If I would please take this bird or that bird. And it's a lot of conversation, a lot of paperwork, transferring and stuff. Which is funny, this particular woman was, I think, retiring altogether from doing bird rehab and other programs. And she sent me a photo of her good side, so. It was fun. I mean, I knew she couldn't fly, but when I got her from the airport, they fly them from Delta primarily, just like a dog or a cat for a pilot people. And then I'm looking at this wing going, what about this tail? She has some broken feathers, and that one too. Any bird that can't keep its balance like pretty perfectly is going to be breaking feathers. So that's
Normally would have that split.
No, actually, in fact, I made these jesses. The leather things on their legs are called jesses. These are actually traditional jesses made out of kangaroo leather. I make them. I keep like a notebook, so I know exactly what the right fit is for each of these species for that bird, that particular bird. They stay on, like a dog collar stays on your dog all the time, but this leash and such comes off when they get home. I forget what the question is, but it's not her tail. Oh yeah, they're not her legs, right? So about every 6 weeks or so, I do a quick health checkup on every bird. I weigh them, I dust them with just as a prevention for lice and mice and flies. I trim their toenails and actually their beaks too, if need be. And I also will pull broken feathers. I don't pull like 20 feathers off. That's mean. It'd be like, someone just that is not nice. But broken feathers won't regrow more than maybe once a year when they molt, or once a year and a half, so they molt, and every feather gets replaced slowly. But a broken primary wing feather or tail feather, like those that everybody can see, that's broken like that, a new one won't grow in unless I pull from the base, from the follicle feather. I'm good at it. It doesn't hurt. Well, it might for a second, but and they don't bleed. You have to do it the right way so that you're not causing the follicle to actually break and bleed. That could be good. There's something called imping. It's basically gluing feathers from another bird onto, the part that's lost. My vet and I have done that to a couple of raptors. Mainly these were raptors that were healthy otherwise, or recovered from whatever their damage was, but it would be like months and months and months or even a year before they had new feathers grow to fly, for example. So imping is a way to give the bird an advantage of being able to exercise and fly while its other problems are resolving. They can be released with imped feathers. I think At one time, sometimes I get birds that have been love to shoot it, right? Or you know those methane flames at some landfills? Sometimes a raptor will fly too close and burn off a lot of feathers. That kind of thing, I wouldn't jam every single feather on a wing because that's just torture. I mean, they have to be sedated. It takes a really long time. That's a lot of feather pulling, and they're still going to be with you for a little. I've done it a few times with my vet, like I say, but it's for when only a few main important feathers are missing from their wings primarily, and to give them a chance to exercise while they're with me. It's interesting. I used to have a really organized file system of feathers, as I did, and I not so much anymore. I got too much else. Okay, so, oh yeah, why am I doing this? So this is an American kestrel. His name is Keith. I think he kind of knows his name. Some of these birds know their names. Like, Maine for sure knows his name. And Frankie knows her name. When I got her, I named her Franklin after the famous explorer because he was this bird coming from the south, all the way up here. And then I got her DNA for some reason, and she's a sheep. So by then she knew her name was Franklin, so we had to change it to Franklin. Okay. Unfortunately, I don't whistle, so I can't converse with her. So kestrels are a species in steep decline across our country, mainly due to habitat loss. They are open field hunters. You'll see them at farmers' fields too, but what they really thrive on is natural meadows. So, or farmers that rotate their crops so that there's a lot of diversity in native plants. A lot of critters, a lot of they like dragonflies. They like grab those out of the air, pull the wings off before they swallow. It's like one of those effects that might come in handy someday. I don't know. And they do they hover like you call those yeah, like a hummingbird. Yeah, but they like hovercraft. They have a drone. Like a drone down here. That's another word that won't stick in my head. So they will like sit on a perch or a tree or a rock wall, look out over the field, and see movement through the grass or a meadow. Fly out there, like their top speed is maybe 30 miles an hour, and then hover above that spot. Their head will stay exactly focused where the target is, and then they go down. And I mean, it's very cool because you can, because of YouTube and all this social media, there's a lot of very cool videos of exactly that, kestrels hovering and getting their prey, or watching how fast peregrine falcons are and how they maneuver incredibly well to miss impediments and catch what they're trying to catch. It's just so cool. So if you want to see more of these birds in action, I would say go birding, number one, or look at YouTube. Carefully. I mean, there's lots. These birds have been studied so much in the last few decades. Anyhow, so he's a he. Females have similar colors but different patterns on them. Raptor males are generally a third smaller overall than the females, like every kind of raptor. It's a little hard to tell sometimes unless I weigh down or you have female and male right next to each other. If you were a birder, you would be able to eventually figure out just by looking in through your bins if that something was probably a female or probably a male, just for the size. And in my case, if I have a new education bird and their coloring is the same, they're not sexually dimorphic, I wait until someone lays an egg. I don't do breeding, but occasionally, like these screech owls, somebody's been laying an egg. Eggs, and I think it's Rufus. you can check, like, if you have chickens, you can check their, well, you would know if they're females or not, but you can check the vent of a bird, a parakeet or a raptor, if you have any idea, or a parrot, right, and you want to know if they were laying eggs or they're about to lay an egg. And you can see that there's like where they may have plucked their feathers to be able to incubate better. So the eggs that are right in touch with their skin, or they just lay an egg, like somebody over there.
So did the eggs hatch?
Not in this case. This has been happening for years, actually. So it could be that I used to have 4 screech owls. So I think maybe more than one was laying eggs, and there may not have been a male at all. I don't know. It's not, I like deep clean their news a few times a year, and that's when I find their hiding holes, especially for those screechies, because like I said, they like these cubbies. So I don't always see where the eggs are until I'm like really in there with my headlamp and such. It's a big lot of money to be fed. Yeah, we have to wait. So Keith here is, you can see his left wing is damaged part. He's out in the flight building all day long. He can get around pretty darn good, but he would not be able to escape. Let's say let him loose. Or landed, but he couldn't like fly up to any of these perches up here. He could stay a couple feet off the ground. He's kind of fast that way, low to the ground. And he's hard to catch if he doesn't want to be caught up. He's sneaky over. That's where I have all sorts of nets, like nice nets, like butterfly nets, sort of thing for these little birds. Sometimes I'm in a hurry to get them caught up and get their jesses on, or check their jesses and leashes on. He's sneaky at me. If you see his tail, how it's bobbing up and down, go ahead, bob it, come on. So that's a signature, that's like a calling card of kestrels. There's very few birds that move their tails like that up and down. Most birds, if they're settling onto a perch or they're comfortable and they're getting ready to sleep, they will like shake their whole bodies, which is called grousing, and they'll also shake their tails back and forth. So chickens do that too, and parakeets, cage birds, they all do that if they're comfortable and they're just perching. But kestrels, that's what they do, the boppity boppity bop. So if you were someplace dry, like here, there's like so many amazing open fields where you might be able to pull over and see a little bird on top of a fence post or a tree. If you don't have your bins, but you see that tail moving up and down, that's a kestrel for sure. So these guys, for the most part, migrate south. They're not good in real winters up here. They really need to be more where there's insects and amphibians, mice that they can see. But they've been starting to stay up here more often than not. The males very often will be up here in the winter, like all winter, which is kind of interesting. Apparently there's this, somebody studied kestrels, there's been a lot of studies, but there's one study that I read that said that kestrels that are migrating south and need a break, like somehow they know, they like talk to each other. It's like a genetic communication that you do not stop in the Carolinas, because there's resident year-round kestrels there that will beat you up if you land. So they hop over down to Texas, Florida, Georgia. Isn't that weird? But and then they go south. So a cool place to visit too, in case you're looking for another birding destination, is Hawk Mountain in Pennsylvania. And there are like hotel and B&B options, and there's times of year when it's like cooler to be there, because you're going to see hundreds, if not thousands, of migrating raptors and songbirds, but mostly raptors going right over the mountain. Broadwing hawks do that. They gather up, they come down from Canada, they follow the East Coast, they follow the Appalachians, they follow the Mississippi River, and they gather up as they get further and further south, and there'll be hundreds or thousands of them that you could see at the same time. And there are also birding opportunities, migration opportunities around here, like in in my county, the Schwaben Mountains, Minnewaska State Park, Mohawk Preserve, are places where if the staff have time, they set up scopes and times when there's birdie people that, master birders that point out, like, look way up there in my scope and you'll see 500 broadwing hawks, like, just circling on the updrafts to rest, and vultures too. Red-tailed hawks, a lot of them migrate. Merlins. Not there. So screech owls stay up here all year. American falcons migrate a little bit further south or to the coast. All right, I'm going to look at the last bird the second tries to get. You guys get the rest of Oh yeah, that's the kestrels are loud too. Oh my goodness. You can put up a kestrel nesting box if you have any kind of open field or you're next to somebody who has a farm or that's cool. If you have you gotten kestrels? Yeah. Yeah, it's hard because that's why starlings are horrible and house sparrows too. So if you have to take down all the feeders, if you have feeders left, for one thing, but there they are, right?
Yeah.
So chances are that they're gonna beat up and kill bluebirds in those nest boxes, or they're gonna take over, like you said, the boxes that you meant for the kestrels. It's in some cases you have to just stop.
Yeah.
You have to go along. They do. I get them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But sparrows are worse. I mean, they're incredibly aggressive. It's just sad, actually. It's sad. So sometimes you have to just like take the nest boxes down. Some people have put, you paint a pretend entry hole on another side, nest box.
For the kestrels specifically?
Huh?
For the kestrels?
For any of these, just to try to find starlings and house sparrows. It has worked in some cases. I've heard that it works. Hey, barn. This is a barn now, yeah. Actually, let me just get a better hold because it's yep. All right, so this is a male barn, American barn owl. They are all over the world for the most part, but they're declining or gone in many of the states down here. Like in Wisconsin, where I'm from, last time I went back, I tried to do some birding, and you can get an official list of native birds for whatever location you're going, whatever state. Wisconsin has listed barn owls as extinct in their state, which is interesting. I mean, extinct in a state I didn't know you could do that. Like extinct to me means all gone, but they're not all gone, but they are disappearing. These guys are incredibly rare in New York State. I mean, has anyone ever seen one in the wild? In the wild? In here? In New York State? Where'd you see it? Whoa, where?
It was on a tree.
Okay, you don't have to give me this. So I've done bird rehab for 20 years, and I've only gotten one barn owl in all those years. I get dozens of kestrels, screech owls, and barred owls, the bigger, more common owls we have around here. And only one wild one of these of a barn owl all these years. And in 2020, the only good thing that happened to me that year was I heard this guy's building is opposite my bedroom window, and he does one at a time. I'm used to him, but he vocalizes all night. I'm going to try to see if he'll do his usual screaming. There we go, but it's louder than that. Kind of like that all night, every 15 minutes or so. That particular night, it was like in August. It was just exceptionally like nonstop, and so I got it because I thought, okay, maybe there's a bear in the backyard. My labs, my 3 dogs, they sleep. They don't get. So I the only thing that could ever get into any of my buildings would be a bear if it wanted to go, pool with a paw. So I looked out the window and there was a female barn owl on my vegetable garden on a post, like halfway between like you and me, and they were talking. And it was this kind of screaming talk back and forth. I don't know what they were saying exactly. It was probably something like, are you available? Get out how do I get? But she, you know, they have amazing hearing. This is one of the cool things about these guys. Most birds and mammals have symmetrical ears on their heads, right? Like we do. Same location, back and behind your eyes. Yeah. Barn owls have asymmetrical ears. So one's higher than the other. And the facial disc, which is so special, you know, it's such a cool, unique face. That plus those asymmetrical ears mean that they can target something in complete darkness through a pile of leaves or even snow, and they can catch it without seeing it because they can hear it that well. Right, buddy? So it's kind of a dilemma why these guys are disappearing so fast in the Northeast. There are there's some mating pairs that are established in 2 places in New England, but there used to be 1 pair on Long Island. I'm not sure, I haven't read anything about that recently. If you are a birder and you keep your life list of birds that you've seen, there are rare birds that are so rare like this one, that the Cornell system actually blocks that. You know, you can see it on your computer, but nobody else will see that you saw a barn owl or harpy eagle or something.
To keep the tour.
To keep the photographers, the technical bird photographers, there are a lot of people that are very, very, very passionate about seeing the real birds and getting the photograph. Like, most of them are ethical. There's like a whole list of like, how do you ethically interact, you know, with wildlife without harming them or frightening them. And one way is that eBird blocks, you know, if you post anything that is pretty cool. So I did post it. I don't post birds that I have taken in for rehab because, I don't know, I'm just trying to be kind of honest, because I didn't see them in the wild, right? But there have been years when I've just done like a year-end dump on them. So far, they haven't blocked me from that, but yeah, you know, if I take in 300, 400, 500 birds, I'd like to get some credit for that at least.
Are they called barn owls because they nest in buildings?
They used to nest in old growth forests, which of course were pretty much destroyed, so then they shifted a couple hundred years ago to barns and silos especially. In fact, the one that I got years ago was from a family. I kind of lied, I did see that I found the nest, which was way up in the top of an unused silo. And barn owls there's so many cool things about them, but they lay 1 egg every 2 days, and they just keep doing that. If the circumstances are pleasant enough and they feel protected and, you know, not harassed. And so the babies that they had, that batch had, they were like grand hatchlings, like they're kind of ugly when they were little. And then the other siblings were like, you could line them up, and they were all different stages of growth. I mean, the last one was, he looked like a full-grown adult, but it was one of the kids. It's amazing. But that one too, I did release that one back in the area, but even though Cornell was blocking, you know, these birds, I lied about, on my personal list, I lied about when and where I released it. I released it just because I don't want like hordes of, literally people who drive from other states to come and see a bird like this in the wild and get the photograph.
Where did this one come from?
This one, actually, good question. This one came from a falconer who had permits to propagate. I don't do permit to propagate, but they can do that. You know, if they meet the requirements, the main goal is to fund their hobby. Being a falconer is a really expensive hobby, so they can breed these guys and sell them to people like me or other falconers. They all have closed leg bands on. It's kind of hard to see because he wants to bite me. Just like if you wanted to buy say an African gray parrot of any caged bird that's worth $1,000 or more, has to have a closed leg band on it, or it's probably illegally brought into the country, and that's big time trouble. If, you know, so you know, and that doesn't happen much anymore. But yes, he's got his leg band. The reason I got it is because they're so rare. When I do school programs especially, I want kids to see a bird that they may never see again. You were lucky, really lucky. But I'm pretty sure that this species might be just plain gone from America anyhow, North America. I don't know, the next 100 years or something, I'm just guessing.
But if somebody's propagating them,
They're not, it's not for release,
they can't be released.
they're not, no, you can do, if you wanted to do a breed and release program, it has to be based pretty much out of a university and have like a monster-sized proposal, scientific proposal.
Right.
That can be done, it has to be approved by Fish and Wildlife and New York State here. At least one of those attempts years ago, I think it was out of the University of Buffalo, I don't remember, but it didn't work. Like they released a few dozen barn owls over a few years, and they were all moved track, so they could track them, and they apparently all or most of them died or were killed. Great horned owls catch these guys, for one thing. Yeah. And the other thing is they do want to have privacy from people, from dogs, from activities. So they will abandon the nest. They'll just leave if there's harassment of any kind.
Were they used, which of these birds were used in falconry for hunting?
They can be used in falconry. Some people do. Peregrine falcons are the absolute favorites for falconers. And mix, if you're a falconer, you can mix breed them or crossbreed them to get the best characteristics that you want. And sell them for a lot of money, thousands of dollars. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna stay away from all the other birds here, but that is all the birds that I have. I'm trying to not freak anybody out here, any of the birds out. So you guys are welcome to come up a little closer, look at the birds, or take photographs, or